What's up, guys? This is Yasin and welcome to the OCG metagame breakdown number 1. So the first one after the OCG ban list that basically completely destroyed Razio. Now the deck is even worse than Rogue status probably. And this might very well be the spiciest OCG format I've ever seen in my life. And this metagame report will also kind of blow your mind. I'm not going to spoil too much right now, but you will understand in just a couple of seconds or minutes. But anyways, before we go any further, we all know the drill, smash the like and subscribe button, etc, blah blah blah, and let's get right into it. So 159 top performing decks from 32 tournaments that were held in Japan, mainland China, and South Korea. I don't know why Akira keeps saying China mainland, but it's fine. During the span of only 3 days, and the only new card is Invoked Majestus Omega. It is a pretty cool card, but it doesn't really matter too much. Okay, so Malice is the #1 best deck, despite the fact that Dormouse is at 1. I guess it doesn't really change too much. Look at this, okay? Dragon Tail, Yummy, and K9. All 3 of them, what do they have in common? They all came from the exact same set, deck build pack, Justice Hunters or something, which is insanity. I think this is the first time that one set introduces 3 new archetypes, and those 3 archetypes are basically the best decks of the format, except obviously for Malice, that was already like kind of the best deck before, but now it's just... The ban list wasn't harsh enough on it. I mean, if we look at the past breakdown, yeah, there you go. Even when Razor was pretty good, Malice was still kind of above it. And now, yeah, it lost 1 Dormouse or something, but that's, you know, that's great, but who cares, right? The deck is obviously still very much playable and very annoying. And it just doesn't really lose to, like, hand traps all that much, but these 3 decks, they absolutely do not lose to Malice. So in case you didn't know, Dragon Tail is kind of like Despia 2.0, so it fusion summons big monsters while committing very few actions. It's really just activate polymerization, fuse for a monster. It feels like you're negging like crazy because you're using like a fusion spell and a bunch of cards from your hand, but then like you're not really going super neg because your Dragon Tails, they will have effect to like set your Dragon Tail spells and traps, and then also your fusion monster is going to be recycling back cards from your graveyard to your hand. So the initial investment of using your materials to summon a fusion monster, it gets like refunded very quickly in Dragon Tail, which is the reason why it's a great deck. And yeah, the main build that people are playing is just like pure Dragon Tail, like King of the Swamp and Dragoon, a Dragoon of the Red Eyes or something, by the way, Red Eyes Dark Dragoon, and then Majestus Dragon Tail. This is very interesting. I have seen a little bit of it on some matches in the OCG, but I haven't really dived too much into it, so I can't really comment on it yet, but it looks actually kind of broken. Apparently, there's some really degenerate combos that you can do with the Majestus engine on it, so I will be checking out quite soon. Anyways, Prime Dragon Tail, I don't know how good that is. Branded Dragon Tail, I mean, yeah, that obviously makes sense because you're locked into your fusions, but you don't really care because you're only summoning fusions. It's just a matter of time before people are going to be playing branded and everything. And Fiendsmith Dragon Tail, which, no shit, obviously, but Fiendsmith goes into, like, literally everything. Like, quite literally any deck here can probably play the Fiendsmith engine. So yeah, that's kind of a no-brainer. And then Yummy, okay, so almost every single one of them is just regular Yummy. Or maybe Yummy featuring, like, another kind of spicy engine, but I don't know if it's, like, included. And then 1 Snake Eye Yummy, because if I recall correctly, they still have original, even though it doesn't really matter all that much. Hold on a sec. Actually, let me double check because I kind of forgot. Original Sinful Spoil Snake Eye. Yeah, there you go. It's actually a 3. What the shit? Oh my god, okay. Alright, okay, so yeah, they got 3 original, but I'm pretty sure like Snake Eye Ash, Snake Eye Pop, and stuff like that, it's all at 1. And Bonfire's at 1, but it doesn't matter too much. I don't know if you can actually search your Snake Eye Ash, but whatever, it doesn't matter too much. You can go normal summon Snake Eye Ash effect, you get impermed. You go, okay, I don't care, make a link 1, special summon your Yummies from the hand, and you just keep playing through infinite hand traps. And also, if you get Veilered, impermed, or whatever on your Synchro level 2, then you can just quick effect, chain tag out, summon 2 Yummies from grave, so you're not getting Veilered, and you're summoning back 2 monsters from grave. This deck is literally free real estate. It's actually completely cracked. K9 is another deck that absolutely does not care about hand traps. If anything, it actually benefits from your opponent using hand traps because now you can use some bonus effects of your K9s. Like, for example, Ripper, the rank 5 Xyz, instead of just searching a K9 card from your deck to your hand, you can also set a K9 quickly spell from your deck to your field. During the turn, your opponent used a monster effect in the hand or grave. And a lot of K9 monsters, they have that bonus effect where you can do something additional during the turn your opponent used the monster effect in hand or grave. Like Izuna, for example, it becomes a quick effect special summon from hand. And also you can Foolish the Lupus, and Lupus, when it's in the grave or hand, you can revive back during the turn again. Your opponent used the monster effect in hand or grave. And then you can quick effect Xyz for a rank 5 using Lupus and Izuna to make Nash Knight. And then Nash Knight can turn into a bunch of very interesting card. And actually, I will be making a revisited video on the K9 engine, but especially on K9 Crystron, because for the first time, K9 Crystron, well, I mean Crystron, is in the top 5 best decks in the OCG, and it's actually taking a decent portion of the pie chart, and for a very good reason. K9 it was literally destined to work with Crystron. We usually don't really see like pure decks doing just a little better than like hybrid decks, but this is such a good one that it actually makes sense, and I actually think that K9 Crystron, once it gets it gets like optimized a little bit more, it will bypass K9. I mean, it's gonna pass it in terms of like representation, and it's probably gonna become the 4th best deck. I don't really think it's gonna be like the 3rd best deck, just because people are always gonna be playing Yummy and Dragon Tail. But if there's ever a ban list that just kicks Malice out of the metagame, then we're probably gonna be looking at Dragon Tail being the best one, just because it doesn't lose to hand traps at all. It's very it's very just resilient. Again, it's basically Despia 2.0. And then Yummy, obviously, it's always going to be there. It's kind of like purely 2.0 in a way, kind of. More like Sprite, maybe, or Melfi. It's really hard to, like, compare Yummy to something, but yeah, it's if I had to do that, then yeah, that would probably be, like, one of the best comparisons. And then K9, I don't really know if it's comparable to something, but yeah, K9 Crystron is... Oh my god, it's basically Memento Fiendsmith, kind of, in a way. But again, Crystron is such an incredible deck, and if you haven't checked it out already, I do have a spreadsheet on Crystron. It's on my website, yacineygo.com, the very first link of the description box below. So it covers like a bunch of combos on the deck, and I will be updating it when we will get the K9 engine, because K9 Crystron looks like it's gonna be a really big threat. Anyways, Primite Blue Eyes, of course, that's the last deck that we can see before the others. Even though White Forest isn't even like performing poorly, that deck unfortunately does lose to like Milchemy Perelia really hard, and I actually, no, not that I think of it, I don't really think Perelia is super popular this format. So yeah, maybe White Forest might actually become a better meta call, because it doesn't really lose to board breakers too much. It really just doesn't care. It has so many Omni Negates that it's fine. Gem Knight, of course, because they have Brilliant Fusion, which we also have, but they also have Block Dragon, so the deck is still better over there. And yes, they do play the Fiendsmith engine in it, Orchest. They could play the Fiendsmith engine, but they choose not to for some reason. Voice's Voice, okay, that's really cool to see. Regenesis Voice's Voice, I am really interested in seeing just how good that deck really is compared to like the other versions that you can play, like Raziel Voice's Voice or Melodious Voice's Voice, Ryugi Voice's Voice. Maybe Regenesis is like the way to go, because I know that this engine is like super splashable, super powerful. I'm a huge fan of the cards overall, and I think they can be splashed in just almost everything, kind of like Fiendsmith, but probably not as efficient. So that's the one issue. Atlantean Mermaid, of course, Fiendsmith Evil Twin. I mean, that deck is going to be nasty once we get the new cards from Alliance Insight. Memento, Purely, Code Talker, Mathmech. That's interesting. Okay, so no Agonister. Eldritch, Fiendsmith Yubel. Eldritch is really good, by the way. The new support from Alliance Insight is, ooh, absolutely nasty. Fire King, it's really cool to see. Despia, Hero, Jirak, Labyrinth, Malice Code Talker. Why Code Talker? Why is this like everywhere and not Agonister? I guess Agonister is kind of like implied when you're just playing like regular Malice, because it's not like you're playing like a lot of Agonister monsters. You're really just playing like 3 copies of one monster and then 1 copy of another one, so I guess you can say that. But still, I would have included Malice Code Talker in the 37 of Malice, so it should have been 38. And then you just put like in brackets, one of them is like with the Code Talker engine. Anyways, 1 Regenesis, which is not really a deck, it's more like an engine. If you play pure Regenesis, your deck makes no sense, but whatever. And then Vanquish Soul. I am looking very forward to the new Vanquish Soul cards. It's gonna be nasty. Anyways, Malice, they did receive a hit with Dormouse being limited, so the way they're compensating is by playing more copies of Chessy Cat, so that the amount of Malice monsters is essentially the same. Dimension Shifter is extremely broken against Dragon Tail and Yummy, but obviously now the card is at 1 in both the OCG and the TCG, which is a breath of fresh air. I'm so freaking happy. And Retelling Sea can be like one of the best replacements, I guess, for when you've lost copies of Dimension Shifter, but this card is more generic, and it's completely broken against Dragon Tail. Might also be a reason why Memento is no longer being played, because, I mean, yeah, it's actually kind of still being played, but Memento loses super hard to Retelling Sea. So this deck can never be great in a format where people are already playing the hand trap that literally cripples you completely, which is very relevant, because if we look at the past breakdowns, Memento was actually just always doing better. You see, yeah, Memento 9, so it was like in the top like 7 or something decks. 4, 5, 6, 7, there we go. Said a random number, it was 7, of course. I'm the GOAT, that's why. But now it's like the 20th best deck or something. It's not doing too well. Well, okay, maybe not 20th, but whatever, you get the point. So yeah, it's a little unfortunate for the deck that you have to care about the card that just, I mean, you basically suffer from collateral damage. And Artifact Lancia is actually still a staple because, yeah, Malice is taking more than a quarter of the pie chart. It's really scary, by the way, for us TCG players. We already know that even if Dormouse gets limited, it's not going to change much because in the OCG, look at that. One Dormouse, the deck is still broken. It is still, you know, the best deck pretty much in the format. And they can play like 13 hand traps, if I recall correctly. 4, 7, 9, 10, 13, there we go. No imperms. And then that's actually, like, I think, what, 18 on engine? Because, yeah, I guess driver counts, even though it's a brick. And then Combat the Grave Crossout. In the TCG, nobody's going to play Crossout because there's no maxi to negate. And it's not like you can cross out a Molchami. I mean, unless you main deck the card, but it's post game 1, if you side in the Crossout and the one of Chummy, my bad, but you're actually retarded. Like, don't do that, like, ever. And yeah, the side deck is just like, I mean, it's standard for the deck. I mean, I've been seeing like Thrust with trap cards for the longest time. When I first met you is interesting. I mean, it searches what exactly you're adding Nistra. I guess it's just for more consistency. I don't even know. Dragon Tail. All right, so they've got a bunch of combos here. Dragon Tail Lucius is the best starter, so it is the level 4 spellcaster. That one, it gets you really far. But there's also a lot of other starters as well. And essentially everything gets you to like 4 interruptions usually. It's like the 2 traps, so one of them negates a spell card your opponent activates. Well, rather the effect of the spell card. And then you also draw a card in the process and you shuffle back like, well, you put back a Dragon Tail card from your graveyard or banished on the bottom of the deck. So it can get belled and it can get ashed. And the other Dragon Tail, same thing. But instead of negating a spell card, you bounce back an attack position monster your opponent controls to the hand or extra deck or whatever. Those cards are they can also loop themselves back infinitely, so you never run out of gas. It's really cool. And then one of the Dragon Tail fusions, it can destroy an opponent's card. And then the Dragon Tail Femena, you can fuse for Altherion and then bounce back 1 or 2 monsters your opponent controls to like the hand. Or you can summon Mysterion the Dragon Crown, and then whenever your opponent activates a monster effect like special summon a monster, you can just banish that off of Mysterion. And we're also going to be getting another, not really like a Dragon Tail fusion, but it's basically Mysterion. Hold on a second. I kind of covered it, I believe, on like one of my most recent videos. But yeah, it's pretty much like a floodgate for dragons and spellcaster monsters. It's really broken. Their mirror match is going to be absolute cancer once we get it. It's coming out in Duelist Advance, if I recall correctly. So I'm looking very forward to that, being a little sarcastic. But yeah, like I said, a bunch of interruptions off of like 1-2 cards. But I mean, 1.5 card because you need Lucius and any monster, which is the reason why they don't play Imperm, in case you were wondering. Because Imperm and then, you know, all the other trap cards that are hand traps and, you know, the board breakers, they cannot be used as fusion material. So you really want to capitalize off of the monster hand traps. And this deck can play an absurd amount of them, like 2, 4, 7, 10, 13, 15. It doesn't look like that much, but you also recycle them back over and over. You can loop Artifact Lancia, so if you draw the card once, you're going to be Lanciaing your opponent again and again and again and again. This deck, once it gets the ball going, it is literally invincible. It's actually very resourceful. I'm a huge fan of it. And the extra deck space, it's not really tight. You can play like pretty much everything. Like the 2 Dragon Tail monsters, you can max them out if you want to. And then I guess we're seeing cross shape with Celine and Axisco. That's actually very interesting because I didn't think of that. You can also play the Charmer monsters, if that makes sense, whatever, because everything is kind of like a different attribute. There's wind, fire, water, earth, dark. That's cool. I think we're still missing a light Dragon Tail monster. I don't think there's one yet. So yeah, this deck is pretty much like destined to get like future support. But yeah, I'm a huge fan actually. I think this is a really nice deck in terms of like design. It's interesting that we get a deck that is pretty much like Despia, but it doesn't really feel unfair. Like on paper, this deck doesn't look degenerate at all. And honestly, I don't think it is. I think it's actually a fantastic thing for the game that a deck like this, with this kind of playstyle, is doing well. Because it's, you know, you compare this to, like, let's say full power Yubel or full power Snake Eye. Those decks are not interactive. It's like normal summon one monster that gets me like 9 interruptions and then you can't play the game at all. But this, like, okay, sure, you gotta use a bunch of cards to play, and then you summon a fusion monster that, like, does get the resources back. But you're not doing, like, anything that's, like, too crazy, and you do have to play a lot of weird cards in order to play. Like, the goat, the wind monster, yo, that card is, like, not good. It does nothing pretty much on its own. The fire one is pretty good. That's the reason why this is a 1 of, and this is a 3 of. And then, yeah, the scorpion, dragon, whatever, and then Lucius, these two are insane. And then, just, I don't even know the name of the one that fuses. Yeah, Orgula, there you go. Hold on a second. No, not Orgula. Femena. No, yeah, yes, I think it is. Femena is the one that can fuse by discarding itself using monsters from your hand or field. So yeah, this one is like, it doesn't really do anything on its own either. But if you have this and a Dragon Tail monster and any monster, you are playing the game. So yeah, there's a lot of like crafty ways of just playing the game. It's an incredible, incredibly fun deck. And also even in the side deck, we're seeing even more hand traps because clearly we're not playing enough, right? We're never playing enough hand traps. This is insanity. The Yummy deck is also very interesting. So yeah, again, it's really hard to like compare it to anything. I do believe that the Sky Striker engine in this deck is like probably the way to go, but apparently they do not agree with me. And they just play it as a pure Yummy deck with even more non-engine, but this time not a lot of hand traps. A lot of board breakers for sure. We're seeing Ash and Maxi and Dominus Purge. By the way, no Veiler Imperm, right? Nobody's playing that. Even this deck is not playing Veiler or Imperm, obviously. Imperm no longer a staple, and anything that just targets is not really good. Because, like I said, this deck is just gonna dodge by bouncing back the Synchros to the extra deck and then reviving 2 monsters. Against Dragon Tail, I mean, it just doesn't do much. And then against K9, it's just gonna trigger, I mean, it's gonna get their bonus effects, so it's just not worth it at all. But yeah, this deck is super consistent. There's your 9 Yummy monsters, they're all 1-card starters. Obedience cool, this card is Exodia, and then P-Ray Race Map, which I don't even know if that's like optimal, but whatever. 1 for 1. It's one of the only starters or enablers that doesn't take up your normal summon, alongside Obedience cool, obviously, because this deck, I do remember watching a video from Sunny, he mentioned that this deck had a huge issue against like removal. Even though there's a lot of things that aren't a problem for this deck, like imprims and stuff like that, that's not really good. But if your opponent just destroys your monster when you summon it, then that's actually a huge issue for you. And this is something that you have to be afraid of if you're playing against Dragon Tail, where they can just bounce back your monster. So I don't actually believe that Yummy has the best Dragon Tail matchup, but I think K9 has a good Dragon Tail matchup because they have a lot of engraven in-hand effects, like Femena trying to fuse, that's an in-hand effect. And then the Dragon Tails, when they're used as fusion materials, graveyard effects, so it always triggers like your Izuna, and then you can make Nashonite absorb like something with it. It's pretty cool. But yeah, whatever. The 3 quick play spell card, that's not a starter, so we're playing a few bricks, but not too many. 2 field spells. Okay, cool. That's awesome. And then yeah, 1 evenly and 1 Blackout Laughs, so that your thrust can set something relevant for when you're going first, because Blackout Laughs is broken in the mirror match. You can call the Link 1 and you just win the game, because now your opponent can't Synchro Summon. Because this is a Synchro deck, right? You're trying to Synchro Summon, and you're actually playing no tuners other than Ash. It's actually insane. It's really funny when you think about it, but you need to go into your Synchro... Your Synchros are the tuners, I believe, but you need a Link 1 to make them. And if you can't get there, then you're not playing the game, pretty much. It's just a weird dynamic, but yeah, it's really funny. Anyways, K9, yeah, this deck is very nice, but I have already kind of went over everything for the most part, but this is the thing that I really wanted to cover. The fact that you can actually summon number C104, Umbral Horror Masquerade. This is not the Masquerade that you know of in the, what's-his-face, in the Raziel deck as a 7 Tachyon fodder. This one actually has an effect where you can... During either player's turn, when a monster effect is activated on your opponent's side of the field, you can detach 1 Xyz material from this card, negate the activation, then you can send 1 random card from your opponent's hand to the grave. And if you do have your opponent's life points, this is insane. You negate a monster effect, and then you're ripping a card from your opponent's hand, and then you're halving your opponent's life points. This is really insane off of 1 Xyz monster that you can summon using the CXyz Nashonite, which you can summon using Nashonite. And no, I didn't know about... those cards at all, but I really will have to like look into them a little more, because they do feel like they're really interesting. I mean, I do know what like the CXyz Barian or something does, But yeah, Nash Knight, I really have no idea. You can also exceed summon this card by using Nash Knight you control. You can detach special summon one number exceeds monster that has a number between 101 and 107 in its name. Using this face-up card you control as material, there you go. And then you can obviously give the number 104 Masquerade to your Nash Knight. But I don't really think you're actually trying to do that, so yeah. I really don't understand how this works. I'm gonna have to look into it. But yeah, off of one card, yeah, with just Joe Cool and any level 5, it can be anything, you can get 5 interruptions. So obviously the Ripper negates the monster effects in the hand or grave, and then Masquerade, like I said, that's like a massive interruption. It's broken, and then Chronomaly Vimana negates a monster effect from any location, whereas Masquerade is only on the field. And then X-First Liberation is going to be destroying one card your opponent controls when you will be evolving into the Werewolf. And the Werewolf, whenever your opponent activates a card effect, you can look at your opponent's hand and then banish one card from it until the end phase, and then your opponent gets it back. So it's kind of like a pointer of the Red Lotus in a way. So yeah, this deck is very, again, resilient to hand traps. It's not like super explosive, and I'm not like a really big fan of like the way it plays out as a pure deck, because it loses super hard to like Dimensional Barrier calling Xyz, which is another reason why we're seeing D-Barrier everywhere. This is an Xyz deck, and then Yummy is a Synchro deck, and Dragon Tail is a Fusion deck. So yeah, you're making the correlation. Every deck out there can play Dimensional Barrier except Dragon Tail, obviously, because you're trying to play as many monsters as possible, so you can't play Thrust, you can't play D-Barrier. So yeah, we're really trying to minimize the amount of spells and traps. Only 5 on the side, 10 hand traps, whereas other decks like Malice, they can play way more spells and traps. Usually that's what they want to do. And then Yummy plays infinite spells, like almost only spells. And by the way, we're also seeing anti-spell in the side deck for Yummy, because this deck does not deal with Dark Ruler no more at all. All the interruptions are going to be in your front, like in the monster zone, pretty much. So if you get Dark Ruler, then you're kind of screwed. Obviously, the Quick Play spell can be an interruption, but yeah, okay, that's one interruption. So yeah, this is like one of your best friends, and a lot of trap cards again, right? But yeah, if you have a board breaker approach, this deck is literally free for you, but if you have a hand trap approach, it's not going to be great. So I think right now, maybe this could still be like a good Dragon Tail meta call. I'm not sure. I'm gonna have to check a little bit more into it. But either way, I think Yummy is like one of the most interesting decks for sure. When this set will come out, I might go for the next deck though, because right now we've covered, you know, K9, Yummy, and Dragon Tail. But it is time for me to cover the mighty K9 Crystron deck. Okay, so there's a couple of things to say here. First of all, K9 and Crystron, the reason why they have synergy with each other is because you're already playing level 5s in Crystron. So you're playing Solfador and Solfafnir. Also, the fact that you can have inherent monsters to reveal off of Joe-Cool means that it has an increased likelihood of being alive. And resolving a Joe-Cool is broken, because in the pure K9 deck, just Joe-Cool and any monster, that's it, nothing else, is already 5 disruptions. Now, there are a couple of issues with that. You have to play X-Force Liberation, the quick play spell, which does nothing on its own. And then you also have to play numbers C104, Umbral Horror Masquerade. But if you don't want to do that, then you can just play Nash Knight and any other number 101 between 107 monster. And then you're good to go. Instead of having that, you're just going to be stealing an opponent's monster, which is good enough. But you still have Ripper, you still have everything else that comes along, like the combo, which is great. With K9 Crystron, the explosiveness of your deck is like multiplied by like 10. So not only do you get everything from the Crystron engine that you're trying to do, but also you get everything from the K9 engine. And one thing I completely disregarded, and I swear to God, I had no idea you could do that. You can actually bridge into your Crystron engine using the K9 engine. And you're doing this in a really interesting way, because you're making the Infinite Track River Stormer, not to search through on King Regulus, but there's another Earth machine that you can search, and it's Scrap Recycler. And Scrap Recycler, I always thought that it was kind of like a mathematician, where it only triggers when it's normal summoned, but it's actually on normal or special summon, and it is not once per turn. So using just like a basic like 1.5 card combo, you can trigger Scrap Recycler twice in the combo, so you can foolish 2 Crystron monsters, and that allows you to basically just make a completely unbreakable board using no Crystron cards, which again is so freaking awesome. I've always been a huge Crystron fan, and you better believe that this is gonna make me love the deck even more, because there's like infinite possibilities now. But yeah, let's say with just Joe-Cool and Solfador, this is what you can do. This is using like their combo line that doesn't involve X-Force Liberation or Werewolf, which obviously is very clean, because you're not really trying to play a lot of non-Crystron cards in the extra deck. So I think their extra deck is actually better like that. But yeah, the interruptions would be Ripper. Of course, that's a card that you're always trying to play, so you negate a monster effect on the hand or grave. That also makes you safe from Nibiru, because the K9 deck, it really just doesn't care about Nibiru at all. That's the reason why Nibiru is played in absolutely nobody's deck, right? No side deck, no main deck is playing Nibiru. It's way too easy to stop. Yummy just doesn't care because they can play Herald of the Arclight, and then they can also just recover from the Nib. They can make a half board and then call it a turn. And they can also just set the quick play spell, which is very good. The Dragon Tail deck, I mean, it summons like 3-4 times. It's kind of like Despia 2.0, like I said. It achieves very few actions that get them very far. And then Malice is the deck that loses the most to Nibiru, but even then, it still has some options through Nibiru because, you know, it can set up like the White Binder into GWC, and then it just banishes it on like the opponent's turn with like the hair, which is a 3 of. So now it's super easy for everyone to beat Nibiru. But K9 Crystron, yeah, it doesn't care, and it doesn't lose to any other hand traps either, because what are you gonna do? Like Lancia the deck? Okay, now my K9 engine just destroys you. Like, you're going neg like crazy, and it's not like I'm doing anything less. But yeah, these are all the interruptions, so you're gonna have Ripper, Nash Knight, Infinity, Dragster, Quarion, Gondrax, Cluster, and Vimana. So 7 disruptions off of just 2 cards. Very impressive. And using just K9 Jocool and any other, like, level 5 monster, I believe, you can also make full Crystron combo. So yeah, Jocool, summon the other monster, and then you search for Lantern, which is the monster reborn, and then you make Ripper, you detach Jocool, you search Izuna, and then you're going to be going, you know, Lantern, revive back the Jocool, and summon itself from the hand. You go for the search of Case of K9, which searches Izuna, and then you're going to be going into River Stormer, which is going to be searching Scrap Recycler, which you normal summon, because you don't really have to use your normal summon for your K9s at all, which is kind of crazy. And then you send the Smiger, you go for Clockwork Knight, and this is where it gets beautiful. Clockwork Knight, tribute River Stormer, summon back the Scrap Recycler, and then effect again, because it's not once per turn, so you send Solfafnir. So you're sending Smiger and Solfafnir, and then you make an SP using the Clockwork Knight and the Scrap Recycler, so there is no waste. All the cards on your field, they do something. And then Smiger searches Inclusion, Inclusion searches Solfador, Solfafnir pitch the Solfador, destroy the Inclusion, or destroy itself. That's interesting. Summon Tristalos, and then destroy Inclusion, summon itself, and then set the Theisvern and Cluster, and then you can, whatever, the Theisvern search Smiger for next turn, doesn't really matter too much. You make Elascaletas, recycle back the Cluster, and then you can go Tristalos, destroy Elascaletas to summon another Tristalos and Solfafnir, and then that's going to be reviving back another Tristalos, and then Inclusion, revive back the Solfafnir, you make Nova Infinity, so you got double, Tristalos with Infinity and pretty much everything else, and then yeah, you're gonna be able to like summon like everything that you want to do like for next turn. And this is Solfafnir and Citri, so that's very interesting that a combo that used to be like 3 disruptions or like 4 disruptions is now gonna be much better. So yeah, that's probably gonna be like 6 disruptions or something. It's crazy. Everything gets into like your K9 engine. I'm such a huge fan, and it's not really like you gotta denaturalize your deck too much. Like you're playing 3, 5, 6, 7, 9, 10 K9 cards, I guess you can say. But if you're playing the Speedroids, that's like 4 cards, and then you're also playing maybe like more Crystron cards. And if you're playing the Kashtiras, then you know that's also like a bunch of like that's like 4 or 5 cards. And then you can also cut like Prosperity, because now your extra deck is super tight, and your deck is like even more consistent in the long run. So yeah, beautiful deck list. And this is by far the best way of playing Scrap Recycler in your deck. I think the only issue, I guess, not really an issue, but it's kind of like a lack of non-engines. So we're seeing 4, 6, 7, 10 hand traps. But technically this could have been 13 hand traps, because, you know, there was the 2 called by and the chaotic elements that I don't really think you necessarily need. Everything else is like a must, and the ratios just feel like they're pretty clean for the most part. Maybe look into like a 3rd Izuna, or maybe 2 Izunas is perfect. I'm not 100% sure, because this also is a hand trap if your opponent used a monster effect in a hand or graveyard. Remember that. You can go for like a Nash Knight on turn 0, which is kind of nasty. But yeah, I think this is also like a very good side deck. I think maybe Zeus might not come up like super often. But yeah, apart from that, yeah, pretty clean. Maybe play Samurai Destroyer instead. I'm not sure. I don't really think you need a Hagoita for anything anymore, because now it's like super easy to OTK your opponents, especially with Case of K9. Like all of your monsters become like super strong, and you got like crazy amounts of damage through like all the hand traps in the world. So yeah, beautiful deck list, huge fan. And also the side deck has even more hand traps. So yeah, we were never losing going second, and we were certainly not losing going first. Hell nah, this deck is the nuts. Yeah, in conclusion, Effect Veiler and Imperm, you're not seeing them anywhere, but Ghost Bell is actually gaining in popularity because It is very good against Yummy when they try to tag out their Synchro to revive back 2 monsters, and also it's good against Malice for obvious reasons. It's fine against K9 because they do have the Lantern to revive back a monster from the grave, so you can just Ghost Bell that. And against Dragon Tail, I mean, it's also good against them because you can negate their trap cards with Ghost Bell. So it's pretty much like a board breaker, which is very interesting. So yeah, we're seeing different hand traps than what we usually see because we've been very used to like Veiler and Imperm for the longest time, but things are about to change. And also no Bestials in this format. I mean, obviously this deck has Magnamode and Druisworm, but that doesn't count because the Magnamode is played because it can search like actual engine cards. And Malice, it just doesn't play Bestials at all because the Hare is basically a Bestial. It's actually better than that because it's just a Malice name at the same time. We're definitely improving now with our deck building, and I'm actually very like satisfied of where the OCG is going. I'm looking super forward to seeing how K9 Crystron especially evolves because this was absolutely beautiful to look at. Yeah, that's it for this video, guys. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and let me know how you feel about the OCG format in the comment section below, and I'll see you guys very soon. Peace.